Welcome back to Miss Lisa's YouTube Science and Math channel. Right now we're going to talk about biology. I want you to like, share, subscribe because I want 1,000 subscribers so that I don't have to tape and upload, where I can just YouTube live. Goals, everybody needs goals. So this class is biology. Is primarily designed for homeschoolers, but anybody is welcome to watch these videos, especially if you like, share, and subscribe. But we're going through this book, Glencoe, Biology and Everyday Experience. And if you're doing this class as a high school 10th grade and up biology class, then you might want to add a supplemental book with more vocabulary in it. But this is a great book for homeschoolers because most of the labs you can do at home without special equipment. A microscope is nice, some prepared slides, maybe some dissectables, but it is some of the other biology classes I've taught. Every single lab is stuff you have to buy from a science supply company. Lots of specialized equipment and chemicals. And so I love this one for homeschoolers because you can do biology, high school biology, and not spend a fortune. And biology is the most expensive of the science classes that I teach. You can get chemicals and physics stuff. Physics, you just use a bunch of toys a lot of times. But for biology, it's more expensive. The microscope, the slides, and the dissectables are all expensive. So I like this class. Also, I like this book because it has a lot of living labs. And I think biology is the study of life, not death. And that we need to do living labs and learn about living organisms. So love this book. And that's the one we're going through. So right now we are in Unit 3. This is Chapter 10, Digestion. So we have looked at the overview of all of the big kingdoms. We've looked at what is life. And now we are talking about organ systems. We're looking inside the body and the different parts that our body does. And last time we talked about nutrition. We talked about food and what chemicals make it up. So I always like that because I started off as a chemistry major. And I'm short one class of a full chemistry major. So I'm always like, why didn't I stay one more semester and get that class? I'm one short class short of a full biology major. And it's like, I should have just stayed one more semester and taken those 2 classes and had a better major. But it all worked out because I'm a teacher and the major I have is very good for teaching because it's very broad. I took extra in each category that now I teach, so it all worked out. But don't be afraid to stay a little extra long if you need to get a better degree in college. That's my advice. All right. So we're talking about, see, I'm demonstrating, we're talking about digestion. So I'm drinking some coffee that has some cream in it. And how is that going to get digested? Well, if you look in your book on page 203, that's where we are, and you can see the small intestines. It looks like a brain. It looks weird, but it is part of your digestive organs. So digestion, the process of digestion, has two parts to it. It is that our food, when we eat it, is not in a form that our cells can use it. So the food must be broken down physically into smaller bits because cells are very, very tiny. And also it has to be changed chemically. And so those are the 2 things that are happening in our digestive system is physical change and chemical change. And so what's the difference? A physical change does not change the compound. Whatever it is, it doesn't change it. It is still that compound. So the example I always give my chemistry kids is you have water. Water is H2O. I can freeze it and it's still H2O. I can boil it and turn it into steam. It's still H2O. But if I shock it with electricity and turn it into hydrogen gas and oxygen gas, it is no longer H2O. Now it's H2 and O2, and that's different. So that is a chemical change when I shock it with electricity and change it into something else. It has a different formula. Physical change is still going to have that same formula. It's still the same thing, but it's undergoing some change. If I take a piece of paper and rip it into little bits, it's a physical change. If I burn it, it's not paper anymore. Now it's energy and carbon and probably some ash and smoke, some pollution, because it's not complete combustion. So it is not the same. That's a chemical change. So digestion does both. Our food is not in a usable form. Our digestive system changes it. So the first thing when you take a bite is your teeth. Your teeth bite your food, grind it up, and start making it into smaller pieces. So that's a physical change. But in your mouth, your saliva glands release a chemical that starts a chemical change in the food and starts breaking it down. Last chapter, I had you do a lab where you were supposed to get a cracker and chew it until it started tasting sweet. That starches are made of, they're polymers, meaning a long chain molecule, made out of monomers, the little bits that make them up, of sugars. So if you chew it long enough, your saliva in your teeth will break it down and you'll start tasting the sugar that the starch is made out of. So that was a lab you were supposed to do last time. If you didn't, you should do it this time, because all you need is a soda cracker in a mouth and sit there chewing. You're going to want to swallow, but don't. Keep chewing, and eventually it's going to taste sweet. It's interesting. Okay, so that's our first thing. Our salivary glands produce the saliva that starts breaking it down. And so the chemical change in the food is caused by enzymes. And enzymes are chemicals that help speed up a reaction or cause it to happen. But in particular, they especially are going to speed it up. The sugar that these starches are made out of, the carbohydrate is made out of, is glucose that would be in bread. And so you can do it with bread also. You can chew it for a long time. Now, you have a lab on page 207, and it's how are proteins digested. And you make gelatin, so make enough to eat too, because it's yummy. And if you eat gelatin, some people don't. Some people are, it's against their religion to eat gelatin. But if it's okay with your religion and your mama, you make a little extra gelatin to eat. But you're going to make gelatin, and you're going to like make it and gel it. And then you are going to see if what digests it. And the book lab calls for enzyme A and enzyme B. Well, the enzyme in enzyme A that they want you to use is fresh pineapple juice. It can be fresh or it could be frozen. It cannot be canned. Canning pineapple juice denatures it. So there's a lot of people who are allergic to fresh pineapple or canned pineapple who are not allergic to canned pineapple, like frozen in the little juice things is what I meant. They're allergic to fresh or the frozen pineapple, but not canned. And it's because it denatures the protein and they can have the canned. And I think I am a little bit. I think I'm just a little allergic to pineapple, fresh pineapple, and I love it. But I don't, as I'm getting older, I'm getting more willpower to stay away from the foods that I'm allergic to. As a kid, I would just eat it anyway. Let's try a little anaphylactic shock and see what happens. So don't do that. So next, so anyway, do the lab. Enzyme B is one that you would buy from a chemical supply company, but I'm going to tell you the secret is it doesn't work. It doesn't dissolve the gelatin. It doesn't digest it like the pineapple juice does. So you can do this lab without buying anything from the chemical supply company. See, that's why I love this book. Pineapple juice. Get it at the grocery store. But anyway, so for enzyme B, either skip it or you can try something else. You know, there are enzymatic cleansers in the laundry aisle. You could try one of that and put it on the gelatin and see if it breaks it down and dissolves it. Or you can do a little research and find out some other common enzymes and try it on your gelatin and see if it digests it, see if it starts breaking it down. So don't buy the one they say you're paying money for something that is, I'll tell you the secret, it's not going to work. It doesn't. And the point is that not all the enzymes, certain enzymes break down certain foods. It's not one that enzymes break down foods. It's certain enzymes break down certain foods. So you can get you can find another enzyme other that, you know, or skip it, and you can do the lab. So go ahead and do that lab. It'll be great. All right, so moving right along, like the Muppets say, footloose and fancy free. Page 208, it talks about nutrients that are digested. Now, not all nutrients are digested. Some nutrients you can use the form you eat them. Like water. Water can be absorbed directly from your stomach into your bloodstream. It's used by your body. So if you look on page 208, there's a little chart and it says you can use water, vitamins, and minerals are already in a usable form, but fat, protein, and carbohydrate, basically your food, is not. And it's going to have to be broken down. It's going to have to go through enzymes, making it into a usable form. All right, so when you eat, it starts off with your teeth, grinding the food and making it smaller, breaking it down to smaller pieces. Your salivary glands putting an enzyme to start breaking it down so the digestion starts in your mouth. You swallow it, it goes down your esophagus, down to your stomach, and it squeezes. It's called peristalsis. I think I'm saying it right. It squeezes to make it go down, and throwing up is reverse peristalsis. It goes the other way. You don't want to do that. You want to stay down. And it goes down into your stomach. In your stomach, there's more chemicals that break down the food and hydrochloric acid, and your stomach churns and continues the chewing process, kind of squishing it and continuing it to break down. There's a chart on page 209 that shows you how long your food typically will spend in each section of you. And some people digest faster and some slower. My mom had a friend who she had something wrong with her and she digested really, really slow. And it was a problem because like she'd eat stuff and it'd just be in her forever. And y'all know, because I've said it before, I have food allergies, and I have learned it takes 3 days to get it out of me completely, every bit of it, where I stop reacting. So like one of my big ones is lemons. I know it is the weirdest allergy. I'm allergic to lemons, but not limes. And so is my sister. And I read about, somebody said, oh, I knew a guy who I used to work with who had that too. He's probably related to me. But anyway, if I have lemons, and lemons, they put it in stuff you never suspect. You eat something and you think, oh, this is fine. This is chicken. Somebody's put lemon. Chicken salad. I've had, and I'll ask people, are there lemons in this? And they'll say no. And so I'm eating and they go, oh, just a teaspoon of lemon juice. I'm going to be sick. So anyway, once I've had lemons, I get tunnel vision, a headache, a migraine headache the last 3 days, itchy mouth, rash on my hands, problems swallowing. I'm going to be sick, and it takes me, and sometimes I'll take Benadryl, and I'm going to have to take it for the next 3 days because that's how long it's going to be to get all that lemon out of me so that I don't have the migraine and the itchy mouth and the problem swallowing and all of that. So I know how long it takes for foods to get out of me. Those of us with food allergies, they're a big old pain. Those of you who don't have food allergies, you should be happy because it's a pain. You end up, you almost cannot eat except stuff that you or like a family member cooks because you just can't trust people to not have put something in and not even thought about it. It's just such second nature while they're cooking. They're not trying to kill me, but they forget and they'll add something to it. So those of us with food allergies, we're limited in what we can eat, but it's all right. All right, so you can see how long these things spend in your body at each stage, how long it's there. All right, so it goes to your stomach. The acid in your stomach is hydrochloric acid. I remember when I was in elementary school, it was way back in the 70s, you know, the dark ages, and we did not have carpet. We had tile floors. So, you know, that's just how the floors were. And then I remember that I went to middle school or high school. I think it was middle school. And for some reason, I went back to the elementary school. It was something that, you know, some of us went back for some project or something, some program. And I went back and they had gotten carpet since then. And there were all these bleached places on the carpet. And I was like, what is that? Why are they bleaching spots on the carpet? And they said, it's where the kids throw up. And the hydrochloric acid was bleaching the carpet. And elementary school kids throw up a lot. So it's kind of gross. Maybe they got throw-up proof of carpet in elementary schools now. And I remember thinking, I think it was better when we just had the tile floor. You could clean the throw-up off. But that's one reason why I like teaching high school. Everybody's potty trained. People don't generally throw up. I don't know that I've ever had a student throw up while I'm teaching. I've had them pass out. I've had them faint in chemistry class because they were supposed to do a oral report. But I don't think I've ever had one throw up in class. So that's good. High school's great. Teaching high school is awesome. All right. Okay, so then after it gets out of the stomach, it goes into the small intestine. And that's where the real digestion is going to be happening. But connected to the small intestine are 3 other organs: your liver, your pancreas, and your gallbladder. Your pancreas secretes enzymes, 3 different enzymes, one for protein, one for carbohydrates, one for fats to break them down. Your liver secretes bile, which breaks down big fat into little fat, but it doesn't secrete it straight into the small intestine. It puts it into a little holding thing called the gallbladder. Now, a lot of people get gallstones and they end up having to have their gallbladder removed, and then the liver secretes it straight into the small intestines. But they're usually told not to eat cheese anymore because cheese is fat and it needs breaking down. But everybody I know who's had the gallbladder surgery still eats cheese. So I hope I never have that surgery because I like cheese. I want to keep eating it. All right. Now then, so those are important things. Bile is green, so that's interesting. And the gallbladder is green, so that's interesting too. Then, okay, and the small intestine makes some enzymes itself. So all these enzymes are breaking down the food through chemical change. Then, once it's all broken down, it's absorbed out of the small intestine to your bloodstream. And how it does it is this insides of your small intestines are not smooth. They're covered with all these finger-like projections called villi. And the villi have in them vein and artery where it can absorb this straight into your bloodstream and carry it where it needs to go. There is another part of your small intestines that is in between the small intestines and the large intestine, and it's a little shriveled up finger looking thing called the appendix. When Darwin made his theory of evolution, he said, I think there were 270 things in you that were called vestigial organs, meaning these were things that were left over from evolution that have no use, and it's proof of evolution. The problem is now we have learned a use for every single one of them. One of his that he had to do with your tailbone, but it turns out you couldn't poop without it. And pooping's important, as we've learned, as we talked about, that we're glad to have a mouth and an anus. We do not want to be a hydra where we only have one hole for that. So all of them at this point have a purpose. And the appendix, even though people get removed, they believe, and you can research this more and look it up, but they believe that it it's kind of like your tonsils that helps get bacteria out, bad bacteria out. Like your tonsils are part of your immune system, that they help help your body. And they believe now that the appendix does too. Just like the gallbladder, you can live without it. And I'll tell you another thing about the appendix. I had a kid whose stomach was hurting, and so the doctor thought it might be appendicitis. And do you know what the test for appendicitis is? She had him jump off of the exam table onto the ground. And if you have appendicitis, you will double over and scream. But if you don't have it. And he didn't have it. It was something else. He was having some other stomach problems. We ended up having to go to a specialist. It would have been easier if he had just had appendicitis, but we ended up having to go to Scottish Rite, which is our children's hospital here, and he had to have all these tests done, like a barium swallow, where they held him down and they squirted a chemical on him, and then they sandwiched him in a big old X-ray machine. So he had some stomach problems when he was young, but it all went back to this other thing that happened when he was a newborn. So it's all pretty good now, but all part of that digestive system. And I got to see my one kid's, I got to see his digestion system on the X-ray machine with the thing called the barium swallow. They just shot this stuff in him, and it made it all show up on this big screen. It was interesting. He didn't like it, but I thought it was interesting. Anyway, and I liked it that when they looked at it, they said, oh, this all looks healthy. It's what the mama wants to hear, right? Oh, all this looks healthy. All right. So then your food goes into your large intestines. And what happens in the large intestines is the water is taken out of it, so it makes it into poop. Poop. It's important. We want to get rid of the waste. We don't want it to be in us anymore. And it takes a while for that to happen. And then finally it gets to be released out of your body, out of your anus, that you can be happy about, that you have one of these now. Let's talk about poop a little bit. What makes poop smell bad is the bacteria in it. Why does poop float sometimes? It's the bacteria. It's depending on how much bacteria is in it. And poop can be up to 50% bacteria can make it float or not. The gas that is given off if you poot, which everybody does, is methane gas, and it is actually colorless and odorless. And you're like, I've smelled it before. It smells bad. Actual methane, CH4, the chemical, is odorless. But what makes poots have bad smell is the bacteria. The bacteria is what makes it smell bad. So the methane gas is the same gas that is in, if you have natural gas at your house where you turn on your stove and a blue flame comes out, or your hot water heater or your dryer, if you have any of those things, it's the same gas you poot. It is methane. And it has no smell either. And you go, wait, but I smelt it. It is because they add smell to it. So, because if on accident that filled up your house, a spark could blow your house up. So the smell is added to it so that you can smell if you have a gas leak, and you could, get out. A long time ago, there was a house in a few towns over, Austell, Georgia, where the family was all gone except the dad, and they were moving or something, and they didn't realize that the house had filled up with the natural gas, and the dad went back in the house and there was a spark, and it blew up and killed him. So natural gas is very deadly. And so I know what you're thinking. Does that mean that you could light poots? And yes, you can, but you don't want to, because you could get very burned on a very sensitive part of your anatomy. You don't want to burn your anus. We're all happy about the anus now after studying the hydra, so we want to be careful and not burn it. Okay, so no lighting poots. There you go. All right, all about poots and poop. The things we talk about in biology class. It's fun, right? All right, so another thing is depending on your digestive system is probably 5 times longer than you are. And different animals have different lengths of digestive systems compared to their height. if things eat grass, if they are grass eaters, their digestion system is much longer. If they're meat eaters, it's much shorter. And if you buy the lab book that goes with this class, there is a lab that we did last year when I taught biology, is where you take the digestive systems and you cut them out and you match them to the animals. So it's an interesting lab. If you bought the lab book, do that lab now. If you didn't, you could do the 2 labs in the book. The other lab in the book, you're coloring digestive systems and figuring out what part of it does what. Do that one too. So do either 2 or 3 labs. Remember, I told you could take a little longer on some chapters if you want to, because we are not going to take all 40 weeks for biology. So you've got some weeks you can spend a little bit longer if there's more labs. So you can see the villi, the little finger-like projections in the small intestine on page 214 with the vein and artery going to it. And so it is absorbing the food and taking it to the cells in your body, because now it is in a form that can be used. Then it talks about digestion in other animals, and I already told you that plant eaters have longer digestion. It talks about things like hydra that don't have an anus and they have to just let it out their mouth. And we already talked about that. And then the last thing in this chapter is problems with the digestive system. And they're, just like I told you with my one son, that he had some problems with his digestive system. But anyway, and what really helped him were probiotics, which is bacteria that is healthy bacteria. So things that you get like in yogurt, or we did kefir. We made our own kefir or kefir, some people say it, helps your gut health, that really controls the health of your whole body. Gut health is super important. And so the digestive system, one of the things that can go wrong with it is having antibiotics like penicillin and amoxicillin, things like that, can kill off the healthy, good bacteria in your gut, and that can have bad health effects. So then you have to replenish your bacteria in your gut. And one of the ones that will do that is kefir or kefir. There is right-turning and left-turning bacteria. And one, even if you eat it and it's what's in yogurt, it doesn't really replenish your microbes in your gut if you've killed them by too many antibiotics. But others do replenish with time. Sometimes it takes a year of eating these healthy bacterias to replenish your gut microbes, your bacteria that you want in your gut, because it helps you have health and digestion. So then another one your book talks about are stomach ulcers. What can happen is you have mucus that lines your stomach, and that keeps you from your stomach being digested by your stomach. But if you eat too much, or you're eating the wrong foods, or it can be caused by a virus or bacteria, you can get stomach ulcers where you get sores in your stomach. But they used to just say stomach ulcers were caused by stress and calm down. But now they know more about it and they can give you medicine and clear it up. One of my friends, when she was in college, she would get stomach ulcers and they would give her antacids and she would just drink it down, which is probably not healthy. She was probably not following manufacturers' recommended directions because her stomach hurt so bad. And for years she suffered with that. And then finally science found out that there was more to it than stress and more to it than just needing antacids. And they gave her the medicine and she's never had it again. So if you have chronic stomach ulcers, heartburn, there's a lot doctors can do now. Their medicines are better. One thing you can do, if it's not chronic, overeating can cause it. You have these things called sphincters, and these are like donuts that can tighten up in your body. And of course, there's one at your anus that keeps your poop from coming out, and that's a good thing. We don't want you pooping just any old time. We want you to hold it until you get to the potty. Well, another one is that they are at the top of your stomach, and that can get loose, and your food that's now got hydrochloric acid on it can go back up and cause that burning in your esophagus and can actually damage your esophagus. So heartburn can be real serious, and sometimes they do surgery where they'll go in and they'll repair that. I think it's called a hiatal hernia, or they will repair that sphincter so that the food doesn't go back up in your esophagus and burn holes in your esophagus. So, all right, digestion. I told you, you're going to learn more about digestion than you ever wanted to know. No, it was all interesting, wasn't it? All right, so you're going to read your chapter, you're going to do your labs, you're going to answer the questions, and you'll come back next time and we'll learn something else. So, like, share, subscribe. Science is great. I'll see you next time.